and win. Just sign up with the promo code WIN. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line to point spreads to player props. So sign up today with promo code WIN for your no-sweat first bet. Make every moment more this season with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Must be present in state where lawful to wager. 21 plus in select states. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable free bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit fanduel.com/RG. Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Virginia. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. Arizona 1-800-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. Connecticut 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Indiana, Kansas 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com. Louisiana 1-877-770-STOP. New York 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Tennessee Redline 1-800-889-9789. Wyoming, West Virginia 1-800-522-4700 or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net.
Tune in every Wednesday to the Carmichael Dave with Jason Ross show for Wine Wednesday, where they whine about play.
Previewing what's ahead
and looking at the biggest stories surrounding the team.
It's Kings Weekly. Here's your host, Chris Watkins.
Welcome in, everybody, to another week of Kings Weekly. I'm your host, Chris Watkins. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much. We do this every single Saturday at 11 o'clock. This week we have a full show going until noon. Glad to be here. And ladies and gentlemen, it's officially time that we check on our panic meters. The Sacramento Kings have started 0-4 to start the season. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of Mike Brown yelling going on for sure in the Kings locker room these days. 0-4 start. It's been a big talk both online and offline. I have heard many people question, is it time to freak out? Is it time to worry about the 0-4 start? Should we be concerned? Obviously, we were promised that this team would be different, that the defense would be good, that this is the team that was promised to eventually end the 16-year playoff drought. And then here they come out and they lose 4 straight. And people have lost their minds. It's people are fully ready to fire Mike Brown already, or at least bring up the question of, was Mike Brown the right coach hired? And is it too early to start considering if this thing is, if we should blow it up, and should we be one of the Victor Wembanyama sweepstake teams? And if it wasn't clear by my tone, my answer is no. Like, it's time to relax. It's not time to freak out. We're only 4 games into the season. There's 78 more games left to be played. We're not a 10th. We're not a whatever. I'm terrible at fractions. I couldn't keep going smaller, but you get the point. We are not close to this season being over. There's a lot of basketball left to be played. Okay. And the Kings, it might feel like a bailout, but they've played some really, really good teams. The Portland Trailblazers have started off the season as one of the best teams in this league already. I believe they're 5-1. Okay. The Memphis Grizzlies, who gave the Kings their worst defeat of the season, 15 points. I believe that was Thursday, right? Was that Thursday? My memory's already gone. They beat the Kings by 15. They're 4-1 and looking like a team that can definitely compete towards the end of this season. The Golden State Warriors, obviously, their pedigree speaks for themselves. They're still trying to figure things out in this early season, but we saw a good showing from them, and that's the type of team that they're trying to be this year. And they're a darn good team themselves. I believe they're 3-2. The worst team the Kings have played are by record is the Los Angeles Clippers, who are 2-3. They're still, again, struggling, trying to find their way. They have had some inconsistency in their lineup with John Wall out and with Kawhi Leonard out. But we saw I would say the only reason why the Clippers won that game was because Paul George went scorched earth on us. I don't think that the Kings played bad defense against the Clippers, or specifically against Paul George. They knew that if the Clippers were going to win that game without Kawhi, without John Wall, they were going to need to stop Paul George. And I really think they did a good job. I mean, if you look back at the defense they were putting on him, they had a hand in his face. They threw countless people at him. He was just an absolute bucket that day, and there was no stopping him. He gave us a 40-piece. Like, he was ready to ball, and he put that team on his back. And, that's why the Clippers are going to be such a good team. They're one of the deepest teams in the league, and they showed exactly why. So again, the Kings have had a very, very tough schedule to start this thing. And I know this kind of sounds crazy, especially when I'm telling you not to panic, but I don't know if it gets worse, but it sure doesn't really get a whole lot better moving forward. Obviously, later today at 3 o'clock, this is, I forgot to mention, this is kind of like a pre-game show a little bit, because we have pre-game game night with Scott Marsh and Henry Turner here at 12:30 on our station, leading you into actual Kings pregame at 2:30, game at 3 o'clock today at Golden One Center against the Miami Heat, who have also struggled to start this early season, but that's a team that's full of dogs, and they're going to look to get right against the Sacramento Kings team. They see the Kings obviously 0-4. This is a get right game for them. They're definitely trying to come in here tonight and play their best game and really get things going, especially with the fact that they play the Kings twice here in the next couple games. So Miami's not going to be easy. They have Miami tonight. Then on Monday, the schedule, maybe, I don't want to say it opens up, but you have an opportunity to get your first, not that tonight isn't an opportunity to get your first win, but I think it may be an easier matchup, if you want to say, the Charlotte Hornets, I almost called them the Bobcats, who the other night, I believe that was last night, gave the Orlando Magic their first win of the season. That's a team that the Kings should definitely look and have that game circled as a game where, if things don't go well tonight, you kind of need to pick up that game against Charlotte, because come Wednesday, guess who you face? The Miami Heat yet again. Again, not an easy matchup. They play at Orlando after that next Saturday. We'll be previewing that game on next week's Kings Weekly. Then they play at Golden State. Again, Golden State's still trying to figure things out. We've seen what they're capable of. Then they play Cleveland at home. Cleveland's 4-1. Obviously, with the addition of Donovan Mitchell this year, they're looking to be one of the contenders in the Eastern Conference. That's not an easy matchup. Then they play the Lakers. We know the Lakers are soft this year. We're looking at that game as a yummy, tasty opportunity to get a win. But then again, guess who you play when you come back home on the 13th? The Golden State Warriors. Third time you've played them in what that would be like their first 8 or 10 games or something like that. Then they play Brooklyn, who obviously has not started off the season well, but has a ton of talent on their roster. That's not going to be an easy game at Golden One Center. And that's when the schedule finally kind of opens up a little bit. You play the San Antonio Spurs after that, the Detroit Pistons, and possibly Marvin Bagley's return to Golden One Center. Marvin hasn't played yet so far this year with a knee injury, but that's something to look forward to. So again, the Kings have some very, very tough matchups here looking ahead. And it's not going to be easy. They might come out of this stretch with 4 wins. And again, that's not going to sound great being 4-10, maybe 5-10. But I did some research. Look at me doing, I had some time and I did some research, and I looked at the play-in teams from last year and how they started off the season, just to see if, is it already time for us to give up? Do you need to get off to a good start in order to have a chance in that play-in race? Because at this point, I think in episode 1, I said that there's maybe a chance that the Kings be on the higher end of the play-in, maybe possibly a 6 seed, best case scenario. I think at the moment, all of those discussions need to be shelved as we're just looking for our first win here. So we'll just talk play-in, okay? The 7 seed last year was the Minnesota Timberwolves, finished off the season 46-36, started off the season 4-9. That's a team that the Kings are going to try and emulate this year, kind of in the sense of the Timberwolves the year before last were pretty much in the same position as the Kings, a perennial 12, 11, 13 seed in the West, and then really flipped things around last year on its head and became a 7 seed, obviously, this year, trading for Rudy Gobert, taking that next step to kind of be a firm playoff team. That's kind of where the Kings are going to try and go this year. So Minnesota started 4-9 last year. The Spurs started 4-9 last year, finished off the season the 10 seed with 34 wins. And then the worst case scenario, if we're, if things seem like they're not going to get any better ever, and the Kings only pick up 1 win, well, guess what? Last season, the New Orleans Pelicans started off the season 1-12, finished 36-49 as the 9 seed. Let's hope it doesn't get to that point. Let's hope the Kings can get at least more than one win out of this stretch. Again, they play Charlotte, they play Orlando, they play the Lakers, they play San Antonio, they play Detroit. Hopefully they get more. If they don't get more than one win at that, I'm probably going to start pressing that panic meter at that point. But to me, I don't know if the West is going to be that low that a 34-win team can still make the play-in. But boy, I mean, that's a pretty low bar. And, well, I shouldn't say that because I have some more numbers for you. 34 wins is a low bar. It's really not that impressive. If you win 34 games, you should not be throwing any parades. It's really nothing that you should celebrate. But here in Sacramento, it might be something to celebrate. Again, I did some research. Sacramento Kings in this 16-year playoff drought, 16 years. Only twice have the Kings won 34 or more games in 16 years. That was in 2007, 2008. You know, kind of off the fumes of those really good Kings teams. Mike Bibby was still on the roster. I believe Brad Miller was still on the roster. Sharif Abdul-Rahim, Kenny Thomas, that era. So think about that. 2007, 2008. And then the infamous scores season with under Dave Yeager with Amon Shumpert, and I believe that was Marvin Bagley's rookie year. And then obviously Dave Yeager was fired going into that offseason. Those are the 2 times that the Kings have had more than 34 wins in a season. So if the Kings can get 34 this year, again, I don't know if that's going to get you into the play-in race, but it's honestly a big accomplishment for this team, and it's something that I fully expect them to blow past. I mean, I'm still looking. I think, you know, again, with the 0-4 start, I'm trying not to be too dramatic or to play too much into it, but I think 36 to 38 wins at this point is where we can hope that this team eventually ends up landing. Again, that probably gets you the 9-10 seed. There's maybe a chance that you can slip into an 8 seed if you're more towards that 38-40 win total. But it's going to be tough. You know, again, it's not going to look pretty for the time being, and it definitely might get worse before it gets better. Man, that kind of took a lot out of me. It was you know, it's hard to, like, you know, right now, especially with how bad it's going, it's hard to like look past it. And I understand why people are freaking out. Obviously, you know, this is not the start that we wanted, but it's the reality of the NBA is there's a lot of really good teams in this league. And De'Aaron Fox said it the other day in his post-game press conference. Good teams are supposed to be good teams. It's supposed to happen. So if the Sacramento Kings team wants to be, you know, they don't have to be in the upper echelon of the NBA, but if they want to be a real playoff team, they're going to have to beat some teams here that is unexpected. And at that point, I think that's when you quiet the noise around, is it time to panic? And you just got to take it one game at a time, as cliche as that is, and take them as they come. All right. I got through that one. First segment in the books. Coming up, we're going to have Brendan Nunez on from the Kings Pulse podcast, also of the Kings Herald, and I'm going to ask him where his panic meter's at. So stay tuned right here. Kings Weekly, Sactown Sports 1140.
Tune in every Wednesday to the Carmichael Dave with Jason Ross show for Wine Wednesday, where they whine about plays, calls, everything from the past week in sports. Wine Wednesday, brought to you by Yummy Winery.
If you want to hit the golf ball farther and straighter, the Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio offers you the opportunity to experience the same technology and major brands used to fit PGA and LPGA Tour professionals. The Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio is an indoor facility that opens onto the driving range so you can see your all-important ball flight. With the advantages of cutting-edge technology and analyzing your ball flight, the Hagen Oaks professional staff will make you a better player. Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio, Fulton Avenue and Cap City Freeway, or call 916-808-2531. That's 808-2531 for longer, straighter drives.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who believe only quitters end a game and a tie, the type of guys who choose the bar with the biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Are you a fan of Twin Peaks? Sign up for our e-club and stay up to date on all things Twin Peaks and score free stuff. Signing up is easy. Just visit twinpeaksrestaurant.com/peaks-club to get started today. Are pro football scores your thing? Well, Lasher's Elk Grove Dodge Chrysler Jeep Rams Big Guy Vince Bloom and Sactown Sports will pick 5 games to compare. Win a weekly Twin Peaks gift card and a chance at $50,000 at the Hard Rock Casino Resort at season's end. Visit the Sactown Sports website for details.
It's Kings Weekly with Chris Watkins.
Gotta love some Drake. Drake will always get me fired up to do a segment. So that's kind of a cheat code here. Talking with my guy Brendan Nunez of the Kings Pulse podcast. You can read his stuff at the Kings Herald as well. Brendan joined us week 1 for our first episode. He is back. I'm going to rely heavily on him and Frankie throughout this show. So you all listening, you watching on YouTube at our Sactown Sports YouTube channel, come to know Brendan and Frankie for sure. Brendan, I talked a lot in that first segment about the panic meter of people around town and where people are in terms of their nervousness for how this season has started so far. We looked at the schedule way before, when it came out at first, and we were all talking about how tough it is coming out of the gate. Is this kind of around what you expected? Are you a little more nervous than what you thought you would be? Where are you sitting right now on your panic meter? I don't know if you want to give it a specific number or not, but
yeah, I mean, I think it's about expected, and that has me not too worried. I think someone asked me what I thought about the first 10 games coming in and like to predict a record. Right. And I think what, like 3-7, and like it's a hard beginning of the schedule, and that's not me being down on the team. Like, it's just realistically, like, this is an up season for the Kings, but relatively to kind of what you talked about in your first segment doesn't mean that they're a great team in the NBA. Right. Like, I think most nights in the West, they're still not going to be the favored team, and that's fine. And like De'Aaron said, and you pointed out, like, good teams have to beat good teams. So I would have hoped they definitely would have got one of these wins. Even like the loss to Portland isn't the most surprising thing, but I think that they had an opportunity to win pretty much any of these games, really, outside of like that Golden State one. And even then they gave themselves an opportunity. Yeah. So maybe I'm wrong for putting an asterisk on that, but like, I feel like they've played really good teams, and I feel like there's more reasons for optimism than what people will realize because they get so caught up in just 0-4, but the offenses looked really good. Mm-hmm. And last year, part of the issue was that the year before there was promise because the offense looked really good. Sure, the defense sucked, but the offense looked solid. Last year, both were bad. Yeah. So at very least, there's a strength here that I don't know existed last year. Right. There's something we can fall back on. And is there a point where you think you will start to feel that nerves, or is it kind of, is it a style of play kind of thing, or is it more record wise for you? I mean, I think if we've noticed that the guys on the team, it was kind of eating at them a little bit, then I would start to worry. And like I think we talked to De'Aaron yesterday at practice, right? It was Malik, and Malik didn't seem concerned at all, which is kind of Malik's personality. I would take it, but like, I don't think there's much reason for concern. Coach Brown said after not game 4, but game 3 against Golden State that like now's not time to overreact. And I'm kind of with that. I think that there's the Miami game's going to be hard today. It's going to be tough. That's a long shot that the Kings win it. They're going to have a chance on any given night, I think, like I said before. But I think they go into that game at the beginning of the road trip in Charlotte, probably 0-5 with a crazy amount of pressure on that game. And for good reason. Like, if they don't win that Charlotte game and they go down 0-6, I'm going to join. I'm going to hop on board of being worried. I feel the exact same way for the exact same reason you just listed. It's like there's going to be so much pressure on that game. And if they lose it at that point, that's kind of where it's like, all right, like to De'Aaron's point, it's screaming time. You can't, like, good teams, yes, beat good teams, but also like if you're not trying to be a good team, even if you're trying to be the 10 seed, you have to win those games against teams that are, I'm going to throw some air quotes, worse than you.
And that's honestly been a huge problem for Kings teams in past, is that you'll, as a Kings fan, you'll look at the schedule and you'll be like, okay, yeah, we should take down Orlando. We should take down OKC. We should take down Detroit because we're quote unquote better than them. And the results and the end of the year standings have always bared it out. We're not better than them.
No.
And I think that's hopefully the difference this year, is that we are actually a better team. I just used we, I'm sorry. The Kings are a better team than the Charlotte I can't believe I just did the Bobcats. Oh my, I'm surprised.
It better be better than the Bobcats.
I'm surprised. Yeah, right. Non-existent. I almost did. I've never done the Davion Donovan switch up before. I'm shocked I didn't do that earlier today.
I think part of the concern is that, like, sure, the Kings are looking at these games as like, these are the games they have to win, right? But I think the other teams that are also like in those lower brackets are looking at the Kings and are like, either they're a really bad team and there's just straight up some unwinnable games, and they're like, oh, this is a chance to get a win. This is a possibly winnable game. Or they're also circling it. Like, my dad lives in SoCal, and he's talking to me about how people in the Lakers fan base are like looking at like game 11 against the Kings as like, oh, maybe this is when we get our first win. And like, their other teams are looking at the Kings the same way we're looking at these teams and being like, this is our chance to get a win. So I think it makes it extra difficult. You have to win those games. And there's going to be nights, obviously, you don't win the games you're supposed to, and nights that you win the games that you're not, quote unquote, supposed to.
Something I want to ask you about here. You and I both share a common mind on how we feel about Chimezie Metu. We're not, I think both you and I were really impressed with how he played in Golden State. I think it was Mike Brown's way of telling Mezzy, like, here's like your opportunity to prove yourself and go show me something. And I think he was really good. I think they loved his switchability defensively. But then on Thursday, he's the first one off the bench. I just kind of want to know, like, do you feel like that was deserved? And what do you feel like the Mike Brown's mentality with that was? Was that just him rewarding Mezzy for a good game, which I'll get your answer here in a second, but he also did, Mike Brown, praise Mezzy. It was the first thing he did after the Golden State game. He sat down on his press conference and he said, well, I'm not going to say exactly what he said because he pronounced Chimezie's name wrong, but he said, first things first, I just want to give essentially a huge shout out to Chimezie Metu, who played his tail off tonight. And I think he definitely showed me something.
Yeah, I think that I was more understanding than it seems like most people of the Mezzy thing. And I think you're with me. And like you said, it's kind of funny because we're not exactly the biggest fans of Chimezie Metu's game. But I really like the idea of Coach Brown rewarding Metu, because honestly, when we talked to him at practice the other day after the Golden State game, he seemed pretty mad. He seemed pretty unhappy. And maybe I'm connecting dots that I shouldn't, but it felt pretty obvious that it was about his role and opportunity. And that wasn't bluntly said, but that's definitely the energy that you get from that. And anyone that sees that presser, like, it's very clear that Mezzy was unhappy, that there was something going on there. So I like Coach Brown going and rewarding the good play that he saw from Mezzy, because Mezzy has his moments. And I think that, yeah, he has his moments of being a productive player. There is promise there. And if he could come to accept his role, and I think there's a world where he's a star in it. And I think the reality is that you and I have talked about, like, Mike wants to take one of Harrison or Keegan off the floor first, to have one of those guys on the floor pretty much at all times. So that was going to be one of the first subs. It's about who do you put in for that place? You need another wing forward. I would have gone Terrence Davis. I think Malik Monk is a solid option as well, and sliding Herter down to the 3. But I don't hate the Metu thing for that one game. If he did it again today, it's an entirely different story. Like, I would freak out, to be honest. But I don't hate it because he's rewarding a guy that played well and giving him an opportunity, a guy that seemed unhappy with his minutes, that now you're not sitting in a situation where the last time that guy played, he played really well, and then he's confused on why he didn't get another opportunity. Now, if Mezzy doesn't play tonight, it's a lot easier to justify to him why that is. And maybe that's like a reason that people don't care about, but I think it's just part of like the human aspect of this.
You mentioned Mike Brown staggering Keegan Murray and Harrison Barnes. Do you feel like especially with how, bluntly, poor the bench has played so far this season. Do you expect to see Brown kind of stagger Fox and Sabonis more? It's really, I believe in the past 2 or 3 games, it's been about 8 to 10 minutes a game where both of them aren't on the floor. Are you surprised by that?
Kind of. Yes, initially surprised by it. Like I came into the year thinking that they would stagger, but I kind of asked Mike a little bit, and he definitely gave the impression going into the year that like I don't feel like we need to do that. I feel like this team is deep enough, which was a theme yesterday too. I think James Ham asked him if he would lower his rotation. He said, no, I'm probably still going to keep it deep. Like he believes in the depth of the rotation. And offensively, the team has been fine.
Right.
And neither one of those guys are difference makers defensively. Like De'Aaron's been one of the better defenders on the team actually this year, but Davion is still an admitted upgrade over him. And Sabonis is not a great defender, even though he's probably better than Rashawn. Like, I think that I wouldn't mind the staggering, but I also get why like maybe the offense hasn't been the issue, and that's where, in my mind, like staggering is a plus there.
You mentioned Mike Brown going deep on his bench the other day against Memphis. He went 12 deep in the first half. The 12th was Alex Len, who came in for Sabonis because of foul trouble, but nonetheless, he went deep into his bench looking for an answer. Did anybody stick out? Did anybody surprise you, or do you feel like anyone earned some more opportunity?
I don't think anybody earned more opportunity off that bench. There might have been some guys who earned themselves less. Kings bench I think they had 5 points going into halftime.
They did.
End of the day, they have 27 points on 9 of 22, and then Memphis's bench has 45 on 18 of 29. Like they just got cooked, and it was defensively mainly. Like, to be blunt, I hate calling people out,
right?
But Malik Monk, Rashawn Holmes have been very, very bad on defense. Davion Mitchell has been really bad on offense, and Chimezie Metu, I don't know what to expect on a night-to-night basis. Chima Moneki, I don't know what to expect night-to-night basis. Terrence Davis has been solid on offense, but sometimes he's a little erratic there. And defensively, it is probably about the same definition there for what I said for his offense. Like, there's just nobody on this bench that you know what you're getting every single night. Like Malik Monk is the closest, and it should be Rashawn Holmes and Davion Mitchell, but it feels like Davion's trying a little too hard on offense. Maybe he's just not comfortable and like trusting in the offensive system they are trying to instill. And Malik Monk's just a little crazy in the way that he plays basketball in general. He makes and takes tough shots. So that's what you're going to get night to night, I guess. But like, who's the guy that you feel best about on this bench? Like, am I crazy for thinking Terrence Davis?
I mean, TD for sure, I think, has been the most consistent through 4 games. Malik, I've loved what Malik has shown us in the past 2 games coming off the bench. He's been a great secondary ball handler, I think, behind Fox, where you said Davion has really struggled offensively. I think Malik has really helped a little with at least the setting people up. Yeah, I mean, there really hasn't been much positive off the bench, though. I mean, especially in terms of consistency, I agree. I think TD probably has been their best bench player this year, which was unexpected because there was questions on whether TD was going to even be able to crack the rotation with how deep they were on paper. So that's super interesting. Something I didn't think about.
Do you think KZ should have played? Do you think KZ Okpala should play?
Right. It's tough for him to go from starting, and I guess this is kind of where this does starting really matter thing come up, because even when he started, I believe against Golden State, he only played 4 minutes. So, if you're already getting 4 minutes, you're pretty much out of the rotation at that point. I would like to see it. I mean, when Brown throws out 12 guys again, I don't know if I'd be interested to see what KZ can do. Obviously, he's kind of falling into, you kind of pointed at it, how it seems like the entire bench is one or the other, offense or all defense. And KZ definitely, his bucket is pretty full on defense, and definitely leaves a lot to be inspired on offense. But it's kind of tough because this is the same exact situation we found ourselves in last year with Mo Harkless, where it's like we feel like this guy has to play, not has to play, but has something that he can bring to this team, but his offense is just, it's not, he doesn't create for himself. And I think that's the biggest problem kind of universally with a lot of the players on the Kings right now, is nobody's been able to create their own offense. So if you throw KZ out there, sure, but with how the bench has played so far, I don't know if you can really, I don't want to say stand to have him out there, but I think him playing with the starters made the most sense because it was kind of like to your point before, the offense is taken care of. We don't really need much help from you offensively. Where we do need is for you to guard Damian Lillard like he did night one. They put him on Paul George in that second game, and I think they played good defense against Paul George. He was just on a mission that night. I wouldn't be surprised if KZ found his way back into the rotation here soon, but it might be kind of like what we're talking about with Mezzi, where it's like, all right, here's your chance to show me the opportunity to earn a spot in this rotation. Can you live up to it, and can you play well? And it's somebody that Mike Brown has definitely been high on throughout this early part of the season for sure. But it's interesting to me that he goes straight from starting, having a prominent role, to 0 minutes, which is not common. I got to get you out of here on this. Keegan Murray was probably the story of the week. Got his first NBA game in, and then quickly followed it up with getting his first start the other day against Memphis. First off, are you surprised with how well Keegan Murray has just played straight off the bat?
Definitely am. 19, 16, 18 in the 3 games that he played, and he's ridiculously efficient every game. 51% from the field, 41% from 3. The lowest amount of threes he shot in a game was 6, and then he's got 8 and 10. Like, he's kind of everything you ever wanted from HB,
right?
To be honest,
right.
And I think that Keegan's been great. Like, I've been a little up and down with how to feel about like how it's changed based on like my initial evaluation of him coming out of Iowa. Because at first I was like, man, I think he's been a lot better. And then looking at it a little bit more, it's like, okay, well, he's not creating for himself at all, really. Like, that's not a knock on Keegan. Like, he's been playing great. I'm not trying to downplay it at all or anything, but like, it's somewhat what it was expected.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's been better defensively for sure.
Right.
Offensively, it's nice to like get confirmation that, okay, he definitely was the most NBA ready player in the draft. He's ready to come in and fill a role right away. Defensively, I've been super impressed. Like, I think he was their best option on Paul George, which is crazy.
Shocked me.
Also says a lot about the other options on the roster. Like, Keegan is a solid option. He's passable. But they don't have a good option necessarily.
Right.
And like, there's a chance that when we're talking about tonight, like, that maybe he's on some bigger guys like a Bam Adebayo in a switch, but then you also can feel okay with him switching onto a Jimmy Butler. Like, I don't feel terrible about that matchup. Like, Jimmy's going to probably draw fouls and just pick on a rookie in a typical way like Jimmy Butler would do. But I've been really impressed with him defensively. I think the offense has been somewhat as expected, but it's like nice to get that confirmation of, okay, he was ready to contribute at that level right now.
Right. And I definitely did not expect that at all. He's been an absolute, like, I think you and I sit next to each other for all the games. And so we're able to kind of chit chat and throw points at each other throughout the game. And the thing that both you and I have said is he's already at the point where you're surprised when it doesn't go in, which is just like, it's insane for me to think about, especially with, I wasn't the highest on Keegan Murray coming out of the draft, but for me to feel that way already after 3 games, like, I cannot remember a time when I felt this confident about a Kings player.
I think there's actually a question of like, is he the best shooter on the team? And Malik and Herter are really, really good shooters, Monk and Herter, but it just like speaks to Keegan shooting like you're talking about. Like,
3 games in.
If I have to bet on someone to hit a wide open catch and shoot corner 3 at the end of the game, like, I'm pretty sure I'm betting on Keegan.
I'm betting on Keegan.
Which is crazy. He's played 3 games. Like, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Incredibly, incredibly impressive stuff from the rookie. Brendan, I'm going to get you out of here on this. When does this team get their first win?
I think it could be tonight, but I'm going with Charlotte. I think that it's just hard for me to bet against a team like the Heat when it comes to the issues have been like the details, 50-50 balls, rebounding, not falling asleep in transition defense. Like, it sounds like all the Kings' weaknesses are all the things that the Heat do well every single year, and that's why they overperform expectations every year. So I think they'll totally have a chance to win tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if it was tonight against Miami, But I guess I'm going to take the safe bet and go with their next game, start of the road trip in Charlotte.
I like it. Brendan, thank you so much for joining us. You will definitely be back sooner rather than later. Coming up, we're going to talk about the bright spots from the season so far.
From the draft to free agency to the summer league
to the games that matter the most.
It's good, and it's pandemonium at Golden One Center.
When it comes to the Kings, nobody has you covered like Sactown Sports, your local sports leader.
Golf to Go is brought to you by the Hagen Oaks Golf Super Shop. Here's Frank LaRosa.
The history behind the Bayonet and Black Horse golf courses is as colorful as their lush green fairways and white sand bunkers. Located overlooking the beautiful Monterey Bay on the former Fort Ord, Bayonet Golf Course was built in 1954 by Commanding General Robert McClure and named after the 7th Infantry's Bayonet Division. It seems the lefty general was plagued with a bit of a slice, and a little creative architecture managed to reduce his handicap with a series of sharp dogleg holes known as Combat Corner, where I've waged a bit of war myself. Black Horse was named in honor of the Black Horse 11th Cavalry Regiment. Lush fairways, imaginative bunker complexes, and beguiling bent grass greens result in 2 sparkling ocean view gems, each offering a different experience. Bayonet's more traditional deep bunkers and tamer greens contrast with Black Horse's stunning large serrated bunkers and greens with more movement. They're a real treat. Visit bayonetblackhorse.com for more. That's your Golf to Go. I'm Frank LaRosa. For 74 years, the Keys family from Naturewood Home Furnishings has been serving families just like yours and mine. Hi, I'm Frank LaRosa with Golf to Go. The Naturewood team takes great pride and significant effort to offer Northern California families a vast selection of home furnishings, most of which are made right here in this country. The kitchen table, which we purchased so many years ago, speaks to the enduring quality of the Naturewood product lines. We treasure memories made seated around that table with family and friends for birthday celebrations, school projects, and many late-night meals when the day just got away from us. Naturewood has provided thousands with home furnishings that not only last for generations, but also lead to everlasting memories of cherished times. Visit Naturewood Home Furnishings now during their 74th anniversary sale and get started making your own brand of memories. Meet the Keys family at Naturewood Home Furnishings, off Highway 50 at Hazel. Look for the water wheel.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave here for Capital Casino, and the primetime football giveaway, it's back. They're giving away a total of $500 for every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday night primetime game, conveniently located at 411 North 16th Street in downtown Sacramento with plenty of well-lit parking and some of the best food in a friendly environment. For more information on tournaments and gaming, please log on to capital-casino.com, and please gamble responsibly. As always, 1-800-GAMBLER.
In the race for state senate from Sacramento, there's only one candidate with a history of focusing on local issues like crime, high costs, and homelessness: Angelique Ashby.
There's only one candidate with a proven record of independence and working across the aisle to find common sense solutions. That's also Angelique Ashby.
There's only one person endorsed by firefighters and police because of her proven track record fighting for public safety. And once again, that's Angelique Ashby.
And there's only one candidate who's a community activist and who's not indebted to the insiders and special interests. Yep, Angelique Ashby.
She's the only one who stands up and stands out. The one who's different from the career politicians just looking for the next office to run for.
Angelique Ashby. She's the only one with the courage to fight for us.
Ad paid for by Californians to protect local jobs and communities. Sponsored by Hawaiian Gardens Casino. Committee major funding from Hawaiian Gardens Casino. Not authorized by a candidate or a committee controlled by a candidate.
If you want to hit the golf ball farther and straighter, the Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio offers you the opportunity to experience the same technology and major brands used to fit PGA and LPGA Tour professionals. The Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio is an indoor facility that opens onto the driving range so you can see your all-important ball flight. With the advantages of cutting-edge technology and analyzing your ball flight, the Hagen Oaks professional staff will make you a better player. Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio, Fulton Avenue at Cap City Freeway, or call 916-808-2531. That's 808-2531 for longer, straighter drives.
It may not feel like it all the time, but fall is officially here. The weather may be a little uncomfortable right now. 1 minute it's cool and rainy. The next day it's warm and sunny. Get it. But what can make you comfortable inside is knowing your AC or furnace will be working properly and efficiently for whatever temp it is outside. Take advantage of American Energy's $49 AC or furnace 30-point tune-up today. Make sure you and your family are ready for the changing weather. Call American Energy today, 916-520-9990 or AmericanEnergyAir.com. American Energy, making the uncomfortable comfortable.
Let me guess. Unknown caller? You could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection. The latest innovation from Discover will help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And we'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app. See terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection.
What's going on? We're talking to Chad Hoblet of Hoblet Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. What's going on, Chad, for Ram Power Days?
There's a reason we're California's #1 Ram truck dealer. You won't find a better selection of heavy-duty trucks in Northern California. Plus, right now, save up to $5,000 off MSRP on new Ram 2500 Laramie Crew Cabs. Not $5,000 over MSRP, it's $5,000 off.
Okay, but what about those tradesman Rams that are the perfect work truck?
We have those on sale, too, with up to $3,000 off MSRP on new 2022 Ram 2500 Tradesman Crew Cabs. Plus, we work the deal to get extra heavy duty so you can get the work truck you need today instead of waiting until 2023 for it to show up.
Thanks, Chad. Stop by for a test drive today and see what it's like to drive a truck that gets up to 32 miles a gallon with Ram Eco Diesel. Plus, with Hoblet's true pricing, there's no reason to wait. Stop by the Hoblet Ram Truck Center today or search Select and Save at HobletDodge.com. Best prices, best selection, period.
$5,000 total net savings and $3,000 total net savings after dealer discount. 10 at each net savings. Highway MPG estimates according to U.S. EPA estimates. See dealer for details.
Have you ever noticed that when the afternoon light hits your floors, you can see everything, including dust?
So much dust.
And that floor dust gets kicked up into the air, compromising the quality of air you and your family breathe.
Eesh.
Swiffer Heavy Duty Sweeper is the fast and easy way to clean your floors with ultra-thick pads that trap and lock dust before it gets in the air. Just a couple minutes a day,
And dust is gone.
Swiffer Heavy Duty Sweeper. Proud partner of the American Lung Association.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. You're driving along and some nimrod cuts you off. You hit the horn. Jeez, it sounds like a goose in distress. Time to head over to eBay Motors. They have horns for every make and model, not to mention horn pads, steering wheels, wiring, and more. 122 million parts. You can even go for an upgrade. Looks like Mr. Cutoff Man needs a new seat cover. Try eBay Motors, pal. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
The game of football is about pain. Ever since I was 5 years old, it's been all about football. It's been about running, jumping, blocking, tackling. I stopped playing at 31.
You're listening to Michael Robinson, retired pro fullback.
I thought that foot pain was going to be with me for the rest of my life. I'm so glad I met Good Feet. I'm so glad that those arch supports are in my shoes. I have terrible foot issues that prevented me from really having a normal life with my kids. With the Good Feet arch supports, man, I'm always ready. My kids actually got to enjoy me in the yard more, racing each other, backpedaling, teaching them some things, being a dad. If I had known about the Good Feet arch support earlier, I would have more than one championship. I would have 2 championship rings.
See what we can do for you with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Sore feet, aching back, even plantar fasciitis? Come to the Good Feet store in Sacramento, Roseville, Stockton, and Modesto.
Kings Weekly with Chris Watkins
on Sactown Sports.
More Drake. Please, more Drake. Always. Segment number 3 on Kings Weekly. I'm Chris Watkins. You can check us out every Saturday right here on Sactown Sports 1140 a.m. On your radio dials. We are doing this from 11 to noon. You can also check us out on the Sactown Sports 1140 YouTube page. You can also check us out at sactownsports.com. Listen live. That's just audio, though. I'll take all the views I can get. So any of those, if you want to do all of them, all 3 at once, that'd probably be most ideal. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. And we're going to talk about some positives here because even with the 0-4 start to the season, the Kings have had 2 really big bright spots so far, and they've been obvious. It's De'Aaron Fox and it's Keegan Murray. But first, let's start with Fox, who had a lot of pressure coming into this season. De'Aaron caught a lot of flack for last year. Definitely came out the gates slow. I think the first month of the season, he was averaging like 18 points a game. in like mid to low 40s from the field. Just didn't look like himself at all. And then obviously we know after the Tyrese Halliburton trade, De'Aaron kind of found his game, finished off the season incredibly strong. And from a national media perspective, all offseason, all you were really hearing was about the tale of the two halves of the season from De'Aaron Fox. And which one was he more? Was he, that 18-point-a-game guy who couldn't really figure out how to play with somebody else, play off ball, have another superstar on the team? Or was he the 29-point-a-game guy who looked incredible and is kind of the guy that we're seeing right now? De'Aaron is averaging over 30 points a game. He's one of 4 people in the NBA right now averaging 30-plus points, 5-plus assists, and 5-plus rebounds. The other guys who are doing that right now, maybe you've heard of them, Stephen Curry, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and should be Sacramento Kings legend Luka Doncic are the other 3 players who are putting up those kind of numbers. So De'Aaron offensively has just been spectacular, doing just about everything on offense, and has again just been amazing. I mean, Mike Brown, this is now the 3rd coach in a row who is referred to De'Aaron Fox almost, it seems like, exclusively as head of the snake. De'Aaron Fox, or De'Aaron Fox, head of the snake. It should definitely be in his legal name, because every time they bring up De'Aaron Fox, they mention he is the head of the snake. This team does go as far as De'Aaron Fox will take them. And honestly, the rest of the team has kind of let him down, because again, he has just been absolutely phenomenal to start the season. He is 7th right now in usage percentage, which is just kind of a basic stat that'll tell you how often somebody is having the ball when the team is on offense, has the ball in their hand. So while he is in the upper portion of the league in that stat, he's also 8th in the league right now in offensive efficiency, which is like per 100 possessions kind of stat. So he's 8th in the league in offensive efficiency. His shooting splits are incredible right now. He's shooting 59% from the field, which is top in the NBA amongst guards. Everybody else above him is a big man who's getting all their points directly in the paint. And De'Aaron is not known as a shooter. That has not stopped him at all from getting to the rim and finishing at a very, very high level. I mean, 59% is absolutely insane. And then especially when you throw on, he's shooting 42% from 3 on 6.5 attempts. This is De'Aaron Fox we're talking about. 42% on 6.5 threes. And again, I know we're 4 games in. It's a small sample size, but what that tells me is right now we are seeing the most optimal version of De'Aaron Fox. This is the guy, 42% is out of the question almost, for even if you're going to say what's De'Aaron going to shoot from 3 this year? Even De'Aaron, I think the other day on the Draymond Green podcast, he was a guest. He mentioned how a 3-point shot would open up his game. Even he said, if I can get around 35% from 3, that will make teams kind of guard me differently, add another layer that they have to think about in his game to how they're going to defend him. And for him to be at 42%, what that's going to do and what it has done for his game is just open it wide up. I mean, he's pretty much impossible to defend if he's going to be hitting threes even near a 42% mark. I mean, if he can come down to 36, 37%, we're going to see a guy who is a real problem on a night-to-night basis. But it's not just offensively he's doing it. It's also on the defensive end. And Brendan Nunez did mention that a little bit when we talked last segment. Fox has his relationship with defense is funny. He's always shown up against the big matchups, the Ja Morants, whoever else you want to throw there. Him and Russell Westbrook have always gone back and forth. He's always stepped up defensively when needed, but he's 8th right now in the NBA in deflections per game at 4.5. And deflections, it's not one of those typical traditional box score stats. You're never going to see it unless you're like me and you do the research. You're not going to see a lot of people talk about deflections, but the reason why it's so big, and I know even Luke Walton had a specific coach that would tally deflections. Like, it's a thing that every coach is cognizant of and wants from his team. it's huge. The reason why it's so big is, it's pretty much how often you're disrupting play in a game. It's playing the passing lanes, which De'Aaron has been excellent at this year. It's someone's driving, you get a hand in the cookie jar and knock it loose. Deflections are huge. It's just disrupting the other team's offense, and De'Aaron has been great at that. I don't think he's ever going to be the kind of on-ball defender that like Davion Mitchell is. But in the passing lanes, using his speed, that's where De'Aaron can really get an advantage on defense, and he has just been absolutely spectacular. The other one who has been absolutely amazing has been Keegan Murray. And again, I talked with Brendan about it last segment. He's been a huge bright spot. The fact that he's already an absolute bucket, and every time he shoots it, you think it's going in. You always hear great shooters talk about how you can tell somebody's a really great shooter because they don't miss left or right. It's always front or back rim. And that's Keegan Murray every time. It's an arrow directly at the rim, and it's just a matter of if he shot it too hard or he shot it too soft. And most of the time, it's been absolute butter, as I believe Mark Jones likes to say. Keegan has come out the gates hot. I mean, he's at 36.7 minutes per game, which is tops amongst rookies. And for Mike Brown to just have that kind of blind trust in Keegan is pretty insane. He's leading the team in minutes in his 3 games. So the amount of trust that, again, Mike already feels with Keegan, I think every lineup is enhanced with Keegan Murray in it. He's 14th in the NBA total in minutes. In terms of points, he's been putting them up at a crazy level. He's already at 17 a game, which is 3rd amongst rookies behind Paolo Banchero, who is just absolutely insane. If we're going to see Paolo Banchero here in a couple days, Paolo Banchero has scored 20 points in all 6 of his NBA games so far. So that guy's a problem. That's probably going to be the guy that Keegan's chasing for the majority of the year. He's also behind Benedict Mathurin. He's first in the NBA in 3-point amongst rookies in 3-point attempts, already putting up, and Brendan mentioned it, 8 threes a game, shooting 42% or 41% from 3. I mean, that's elite stuff. And please sign me up for. Can I have 13 more years at least of Keegan Murray taking 8 threes and shooting 40%? I will gladly sign up for that. Please, I love it. And that's those 2 guys. I mean, if they can get, it's not Domantas Sabonis, I think had a good game against the Warriors. It's not like, other people haven't played well for this team, but it's the consistency. And I think that's, again, part of what Mike Brown was searching for when he went 12 deep the other day in the first half, is just trying to find somebody that he can rely on a night-to-night basis. And so far, Fox and Murray have been those guys. I'd like to see Domas get into that crew. Harrison Barnes finally had a good game against Memphis the other day. We've seen Rashawn Holmes had a good game against the Warriors again. Malik Monk has put together a couple games, but it's just about getting all of these guys all on the same page. The Kings have not had one game this year where all, we'll say, 9 rotation guys have all played well on the same day. So that's definitely something to look forward to. Brendan mentioned today is a tough game against Miami. I expect it to be a tough one. I hope that they can split these 2 of 3 games with Miami. Again, I'm with Brendan. I think the first win is on the horizon. I feel like they're going to get it against the Hornets, if not against the Heat. So it's all right. It's time to breathe. We can all breathe now. Let the games play. We'll panic when it's time to panic. But for now, let's just try and watch, enjoy, and hopefully get our first win. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. Thank you, Kyle, on the other side of the glass. Thank you, Brendan, for joining me. My name is Chris Watkins. We will have Kings game night at 12:30. So stay tuned right here to Sactown Sports 11. Actually, at 1:30. I'm sorry, at 1:30 we'll have game night. So be sure to stay locked in right here on Sactown Sports 1140. This has been Chris Watkins on Kings Weekly. Bye-bye.
Sactown Sports 1140 is broadcasting live on YouTube.
To me, it's a must watch.
Check out the Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross and the Cattles and Rami Show.
Plus, get exclusive content.
Search Sactown Sports 1140 on YouTube.
It's Carmichael Dave for my good friend Shelby and everybody over at RefinanceWithShelby.com. Home